Hey guys, this is the continuation or part two, I guess, of the drawing process video. Welcome back to my desktop. Let's get right to it. Last we left off, I was showing you guys my process for digitally inking things, and now my piece is about where I want it to be. Um, if you were paying close attention at all to the last piece, the framing's a little different. I moved things down a bit, but it worked out for the best, compositionally speaking. So I also added some things like cigarette and some earring stuff, but that's because I kind of got where I already wanted it to be. And this is the wolf had some gnarly stuff like guts coming out and whatever. So yeah, I think this is good. I think I'm gonna write mother across here in the tattoo area, but I'm not sure. But um, same with where this brow is. Instead of making the hard line for the hair there, I think I'm just gonna shade that in because it's supposed to be really cropped hair. So the next step, once you've got the line art done and where you want it to be. Well, I guess one last tip before. What I usually do is I'll be really close in when I'm drawing to make sure my details are what I want and make sure I've got nice lines, and then I'll zoom out constantly just to make sure it's got an overall kind of oneness with its line art, because one of the mistakes you can do that took me a long time to realize was sometimes you can get so into the small details that you'll be drawing something that you think looks really good from up close, but then when you zoom out, you realize, oh, the line work's way too thin or something's not heavy enough. So like I said, for example right here, I think this elbow can be a little thicker just to show that it's in the foreground more. But little things like that. So now the line art is where I want it. Something I just started doing that I don't know why I didn't before it was this little icon right here that's the grid is for locking transparent pixels, meaning if you don't know, that if you click on it, it'll lock all the stuff you haven't done. So let's say for example, they're unlocked. So right now I can just draw all over this thing, problems everywhere with that for obvious reasons. However, if I lock those transparent pixels, meaning all the stuff I haven't drawn on, it'll make it so that if I attempt to draw on this, I can't do anything except for on the black, because what I've said is, hey, all the transparent pixels that were in this are now solid and I can't touch them. And this is such a good tool for changing the line art color, which is something I'll often do to make things more subtle where lines are kind of harsh. For example, all this detail work that's in the vest of where seams are, I don't necessarily want that to be black. I want that to not be so heavy. So what you do after you've locked the transparency, what I do rather is, I'll pick some dark color like that's similar to jeans, I guess, and then all you have to do is color over the area you want to change, and now it's different. And it's just that because I've locked all the transparent pixels around it, so I only affect what was in this layer before I locked it. And that's the cool part too, because I don't even have to press undo. If I want to quickly make something black again, I just select black and I can color back over those spots. And no harm, no foul. It's just the easiest way to change it. So and it also keeps things nice and clean. So I always lock my final lines layer now. Next up, what I'll do, let me save this real quick. Okay, next step I'll do is I'll make a new layer underneath my line. Some people like making their lines set to multiply. I find that I don't need to do that when I'm working strictly digital, but you can if you want. So let's just do that for the sake of it. Now, actually, nah, I'm gonna leave it normal, but you can put on multiply. I'll make a new layer underneath it and just do coloring book style. I'll label it colors for organization's sake, and I'll do all my flats. For those of you that aren't familiar with that term, it's exactly what it sounds like. You just lay down your flat colors of what you want things to be. So, it's kind of ironic because I think I might want to make this black and white, but we'll see. I can always change that later. Let's do a sort of grayish, faded, washed out denim color, because I want this denim not to look brand new. I want it to look like it's ripped at the sleeves and everything. So, I have two ways of tackling this. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll lower the opacity of my line art so that's about 50% and see-through. And that way I can still see where I'm coloring underneath it. See this area where it's slightly darker? Then what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll lightly trace along this line halfway through the line like this. Let's zoom out a little bit so you guys can see that. And I'll go into it like so. And that way, once it's all closed off, let's just do this real quick. Okay. I can simply use a wand tool and select this area and then use my paint bucket to just fill it in really quick. And the reason you want to go at least halfway through is because sometimes if you just go straight up to the edge, like right to the edge, sometimes you can zoom out, and this is not such a dramatic example, but sometimes you zoom out and sometimes it's really easy to get this kind of white halo around things and it sticks out like crazy, and so you know that you won't get it if you just color it halfway through. So that's one way I'll color. Another way is I'll hit sample all layers when I select my wand tool. That way I don't have to go back to my line art every time. I can just stay in my colored layer, and I'll select something like here, for example. And since it's only right up to that stuff and I want it to go to the edge, I'll go to select, modify, expand, and expand it by, I don't know, like 5 pixels or something. That way, see how it's like halfway through? And then I'll make sure you're in your colors still, and then fill it in that way. You see? So that's 2 ways of coloring that. And other times, I'll just go crazy like this and just start coloring it like a coloring book. And that's good for when you're doing the selections, whichever way you're doing it. If you're going to do it like me, what I do is I look for open gaps like this, and I try to fill those in, because I still want those gaps to exist to break up the line work, but it makes it a lot easier for selections and coloring if you seal those up. So I think I've sealed up all the openings, so when I hit this layer again, it's closed in and it's not leaking into there because I sealed it off basically, since I'm on sample all layers. So I'll do the same thing, modify, expand, okay, paint bucket tool, boom. And if you color this way where you seal off the exits and then magic wand stuff and then expand it, you can get your flats done really, really, really quickly. And as you can see, let's just finish this last part. Wand, select, modify, expand. Now I can turn on the opacity of all the way for my vest, and now you can see that there you go, there's some flats. I'll do this side of the vest really quickly. Select, modify, expand. Oh, I almost see. This is a good example of why it's good to lock your line art and the transparency, because I tried to just fill in on my lines layer, which would have been a mistake, but it didn't do anything because I locked those. So, useful. Oh, I didn't seal these up, see? But that's okay, because when it's small stuff like this, my method is very simple. Instead of just undoing, I'll just go in really quickly and erase those mistakes. But yeah, no, not that big of a deal. When you're working digital, I mean, it's pretty convenient. And for here, I don't want to do all the selections. I'll just go in and fill that in with my actual, what do you call it, brush, pencil, I guess, pencil brush, whatever. Now, to give you a better example of that whole coloring different lines thing, like I said, I don't want all the seam lines to be black because they're just so dark. I want the outside lines to be that way, but stylistically, for my style, I like to go in and color those in. So I'll go to lines and I'll select, or you can do it this way, and select that color and do something that's darker, like that. You know, that's pretty dark, but still kind of blue. And this will be really good for detailing these seam lines. So since this pocket is an edge, I'll leave that black. Actually, this can be darker. There we go. And I just start. Make sure you're on your line layer with the transparencies locked. And I'll go in and do just the minor lines. I may not, and even some wrinkles. That's really good for that. Again, it just helps it make it less flat and less cartoony. Unless you're going for that look, and then you wouldn't want to touch anything. So I'll go in, make sure I'm really detailed. And the cool part too is if I go too far over, I just have to select black again and then do that. And it's a really, really easy and convenient way. And I just started doing my line art like this because I just realized, like, oh, I should start locking my transparencies, and that'll make this all easier. It makes it so much easier because there's all sorts of techniques with making a new layer and linked masks and overlays and whatever, but I found this to be by far the easiest way to deal with recoloring line work. So easy, and it's one you can remember, because another thing that happens with those other techniques involving lots of layers and masks and stuff, I just end up forgetting what process I need to do. But this, I never forget. It's just like, oh yeah, lock the transparency, and boom, you can just start recoloring this stuff super easy. And now when I pull back, you can see that, yeah, even though those lines are dark, but they're not so dark. In fact, I like it so much, I'm gonna do anything that's not a big edge. If it's just seam work, I'm gonna go over it. So let's do that real quick. I'll leave that black. That's the edge of the pocket, and I think that should have some dimensionality. And there's no perfect science to this. I've had some people ask me on DeviantArt, how do you decide what you want to color and what you want to leave black? And I don't have a steadfast rule. Sometimes I'll leave certain edges dark. Sometimes I'll fill them in. But I'm never like, oh, well, if it's this, then I'll definitely, fill that in or leave this black or whatever. This is the easiest way to do it, is just kind of go balls to the wall and then zoom out. And if you like it, keep it. If you don't, keep changing it or do whatever. And let's see. I'll finesse this a little bit more once I'm done recording, but for now, I'll tackle just seam work, because that's a really light detail. You know, that doesn't need to be super dark. It's not really an edge, it's just a small detail. So yeah, see, now when I zoom out, I like the look of that. It makes it a little less harsh, a little less rough. But this line, for example, this is something where I'm going to go back. I want this to be black because I do want the collar to pop from the actual vest some more than that. And I like the way that looks a lot more. And I might even go back here, and I kind of like these being really, really thick, little tapered seam parts. I don't know what the actual term for this would be because I'm not a tailor, but here we go. Yeah, so I'm liking the way that looks. I'll hit save, and normally I'll finish my flats before I do this, but for the sake of this process video, I wanted to show you how I do that. And what I'll do now is, that was just for the process video. I'm just, see, I just went in super easy, filled all that stuff in black, so I'm gonna leave it that way while I'm coloring it, just to, because I don't know if I'm gonna keep any of that anyways. Oh, see, this was meant to be, there we go, that was meant to be a button. So, yeah, this is my process thus far. I think that you all must be sick of hearing and watching me do this. So I will come back at you when the flats are finished and show you how I go about shading things or play with gradients or overlays or background textures and whatnot. So I hope you enjoyed, or at least were informed. And yeah, I will catch you later. That's not something people say.